Good evening. I call this October 7th, 2024 meeting of the Sylvania Board of Education to order. Adam, please call the roll.
Ms. Hoffman?
Here.
Mrs. Conklin?
Here.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Here.
Mr. Bowden?
Here.
Mr. Feller is absent.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. We are at the portion of our agenda for public participation for agenda items. And there's no one signed up, so I will move to Dr. Motley to announce our presentations.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to present this evening a presentation from Sylvania Township. Not only Oliver Turner here as administrator, but the Fire Services Department led by Chief Chris Nye and also Assistant Chief Jeff
Bennett.
Bennett. It was right there. Thank you, Chief Bennett. Anyway, they are here to present on their upcoming levy. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. The floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Oliver Turner. I serve as the Sylvania Township Administrator. We're here to present to the board regarding issue 14, which is the levy for fire EMS services will be on this fall's ballot. I'll hand out some factual information. We're here in our official capacities. We'll hand out some factual information and turn it over to Assistant Fire Chief Jeff Bennett to go into some details.
Thank you, Dr. Motley and board members. We look at this as a great opportunity to keep our community partners apprised of our operations and hopefully in the future have our partnership become even stronger. But what I'm going to share with you tonight is not only some information about the upcoming levy, but how it got there. We did what's called a needs assessment, and our 2024 needs assessment found some interesting information for us to work off of. So when we're doing a needs assessment, we look at the goals that we want to try to reach as a department. And some of those goals are to effectively respond to increasing incidents in transport, to train for dangerous conditions and emergencies, to continue responsible asset management, stewardship of public resources, high-quality services for citizens and stakeholders, and foster accountability and community engagement. And in case you didn't already know, the other thing that we do is strive to maintain excellence as your second largest fire department in the area and one of the largest in Northwest Ohio. So what we look at when we're talking about information as far as this needs assessment, one of the things that we look at is our incident totals. And one thing that we found during our incident totals is from 2014 to 2023, we had a 60% increase of incidents over that time period. It's been a steady climb over that time period. 28% of those increases have occurred since 2018. For 2024, we are already on track to reach 8,000 incidents for the year. Along with that increase in incidents, naturally there's an increase in patient transports. So your Sylvania Fire Department does their own patient transports as well. Since 2018, we've had a 57.7% increase in those transports. During that transport time, we had Lucas County EMS available as a life squad in Lucas County, or in Sylvania as Lucas County, but it was staffed with our firefighters. They did a portion of those transports. As of August 5th of this year, Lucas County has dissolved, and Sylvania Fire Department is solely responsible for the transports in Sylvania City and Sylvania Township. We do have mutual aid partners that assist us as well in those transports. One question that we get asked a lot is, when it comes to that, how do we staff our ambulances and our fire trucks? And why is it when I call 911 for a medical problem, I get a fire engine? That's a real common question. So we wanted to share that answer with you in case any of your people in the public ask you that. NFPA sets standards for us as far as how we should respond to an incident, how it should be handled. We try to maintain that as closely as possible. NFPA says that when there's a standard 2,000 square foot structure fire, that 16 to 17 members of the department should respond initially to take care of that incident. So right now, our current staffing for the entire shift each day is at 17. So that's a whole shift that needs to respond to that fire. The other thing that they talk about is on EMS calls, if it's an advanced life support patient, that there should be at least 2 basic trained EMTs and 2 paramedic trained EMTs for a total of at least 4. Now EMS's trends have changed over time, and now when you call 911, it's almost like getting the emergency room delivered right to your house. So if you've ever seen on TV when they're working in an emergency room, there's a lot of people there with a lot of different jobs. Same thing for us. Matter of fact, our medical director in our hospitals want us to stay on scene as long as possible to stabilize that patient before we attempt to transport, because once we do, the patient can decline and it's harder to deal with. So with that being said, we staff our engines or ladder trucks with 3 individuals and our ambulances with 2. So when a medical call comes in, we send an apparatus and an ambulance to meet that criteria that NFPA recommends. So when we start talking about these increasing runs and the amount of staffing we have and the amount of staffing it takes per run, it's a real delicate balance between our resources and our runs. So what we found during our research is there's overlapping calls that are occurring more and more often, and that makes sense as our run volume goes up. We have found that last year alone, 2023, we had 7,568 runs, and during that time, 4,740 of them took place simultaneously. So what that means is 62% of the time, or 6.5 times per day, we had instances where there were multiple calls going on, and our resources were either nearly completely gone, or completely gone during that time period. So we were in desperate need to have more resources in order to maintain that increase in run volume. Currently, like I said, we staff 17 on per day. At Station 1 at Main and Monroe in the city, we have 5 individuals working. Station 2 at McCord and Central, we have three working with a battalion chief. At Whiteford and Monroe at that station, we have 3, and then at Sylvania and Centennial, we have 5, for a total of 16 to 17, depending on the day. We have multiple vehicles at each station, and it's a little hard to do without a graphic, but we intend to send this program to you so you can view it at your own leisure. But it puts us in a situation where we actually have more apparatus than staffing. So some of our stations do what's called cross-staffing, where depending on the run, they either jump on an engine or they jump on a truck, or they jump on an engine or they jump on an ambulance. So that's how we handle that for this town. So as far as our current staffing versus our planned staffing, right now we run 69 members on the department. So in 2020, which was our last time that we passed a levy, we were at 63 at that time. In 2021, we added 3 more individuals to make 66, and then in 2022, we added 3 more to bring us to that 69. So since 2022, we have not added any more individuals working for our department on a regular basis. What that means is, even though we've had a 28% increase since 2018 in our runs, we've only increased our staffing 15%. So what we would like to do, if this levy were to be approved, we would, in 2025, add 3 more individuals to bring us to 72. We would wait 2 more years, then in 2027, add 3 more to bring us to 75. And then in 2029, we would evaluate our finances and our current run volume and see if it would be pertinent to add 3 more to bring us to a total of 78. As far as asset stewardship, and once again, we're going to send you this so you can look at these charts as far as what kind of stuff we're talking about. But we've noticed in the fire service, the prices of things have gone up considerably higher than the rate of inflation. To give you an idea, in 2020, to outfit a firefighter with 2 sets of gear was $6,700. And now, this year, it's $11,255. The reason that we do 2 sets of gear for firefighters is firefighters are exposed to a lot of chemicals, a lot of toxins in their job, so they need to decontaminate the first set while it'll still be available for the second set. Firefighters are at risk for 13 different types of cancer, more than the typical human is. So the other things that we've seen increase in cost with, in 2018 we bought an ambulance for just over $274,000. That ambulance in 2022 cost us $366,000. A fire engine, the type of truck that actually carries hose and can pump water, in 2022 cost us $727,000. That price today is $1.15 million. So we're dealing with those large increases, but we're also dealing with daily increases of just exam gloves. Exam gloves in 2020 were $10 and now they're $20. And then you have IV solutions that were $5 and now they're $12. So you get the trend that it's much higher than the rate of inflation is. We have capital improvement issues that we want to deal with. We have a lot of equipment that's very technical, very pricey. We maintain all of our equipment top notch, and we use it to the extent of its life. Along with our equipment, we also do that to our apparatus. So we have a list of items that we'll provide to you, and we're going to provide to the citizens as well on Sylvania Township's website, that they can go on and view all these numbers. But what we do is we budget each year for those replacements, and then when the time comes up that that equipment and that apparatus is no longer good, we're able to replace it at that time. So some of the fiscal considerations we had to look at when we were looking at the situation and what we need to do to meet the increasing demands, we started looking at the fire levies and what's funding us currently. Right now, the fire department is operating off of 12.05 mills that were voted on since 1982. But the effective millage of those levies is actually 6.78, so much lower than the original vote. Another big question that's been taking place in the public is about the new housing evaluation and how that's going to mean for taxes and that type of thing. Well, the good news, if there is any in there, House Bill 920 that was passed by the Ohio House in 1979 states that if a housing evaluation goes up, it doesn't go up dollar for dollar with the levies. So this current levy that's going to be on the ballot for the fire department actually is going to be assessed under the current evaluation, not the new one. That is for current structures. Any new buildings would then count with the new valuation. So that will be helpful in people's minds to know that situation. The other thing that's good to know about that is once the housing valuation does kick in, it will not increase the amount of money that we increase if the levy were to be passed this year. So looking at our revenues and expenses, we were looking at our fire protection service fund. We are outspending that. Our fund is at 13.5, we're spending 15.4. And we are very frugal with our budget. It's just the costs have been going up and that's what we're dealing with. The ambulance fund is at $1 million and we're spending at 1.3. So basically our overall expenditures are at 16.8 versus our revenues at 15.4. So what that means is our carryover, our end of year cash balances is continuing to decline. We try to shoot for a 2.4 to 3.2 carryover million each year. We're good until the end of this year with that, but without the passage of the new levy, at the end of 2025, we would be down to about 1.6, and that would continue to decline after that. So what that's telling us is not only does this levy affect us being able to enhance our services to be able to accommodate the increasing runs, but we also needed to maintain our current operations as well. So what that means is with that 2.5 levy issue 14, it would generate $4.2 million. It's projected for that 2.5 for a $200,000 homeowner would cost $14.58 per month for a total of $175 per year. And what we've projected with this levy amount, that if it were to pass, we would make that last at least 6 years before any additional monies would be asked for after that. So once again, going back to our service goals, the biggest thing is making sure that we maintain our current operations and enhance so that we can cover the increasing call volumes. So if there's any information, you can contact Mr. Turner, Chief Nye, or myself. Like I said, the website, SylvaniaTownship.com, will have this full presentation along with narration to explain each slide if you'd like to get additional information. And is there any questions we can ask or answer now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for that, for taking the time.
Thank you. Next, we have item 3.2, which is a presentation of the Sylvania Schools local report card. We have Julie Sanford here tonight, who has the pleasure of sharing this with our Board of Education and those who may be watching later annually. So Julie, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to highlight publicly our Sylvania report card. Our goal of the presentation tonight is just look at kind of a high-level view of what our report card is telling us for this year. And we'll talk a little bit about what those results mean, how we're using those results, and then we'll make some comparisons as well. So as a review, there are 5 components that make up an overall star rating for our report card: achievement, progress, gap closing, early literacy, and graduation. The achievement and progress components weigh double what the graduation, early literacy, and gap closing components are weighted. When we look at our 23-24 report card, so last year's academic year, we have a 4.5 overall star rating with a 4 in achievement, 4 in progress, 5 in gap closing, 4 in graduation rate, and our early literacy score is a 3-star. I always like to look at how that compares to the previous year, and what we can see is our ratings are the same, except for in the area of early literacy. We did drop from a 4-star to a 3-star, and I will talk about that in a little bit here and share what contributes to that decrease. As an administrative team and our administrators with our building level staff, we always go through and take a deep dive of our data. We look at what is going up on the report card from one year to another, but we also look at what has gone down. And then we start to talk about root causes and what do we think is attributed to an increase or a decrease. You will see here any of the scores highlighted in green, increased, anything highlighted in yellow, decreased from one year to another. And these are the elementary ratings. We also can look at the junior high. We did have gap closing that went down a little bit more than just a half a star or so. So I could put that one in red at Arbor Hills for gap closing. Gap closing is talking about our subgroups. It could be English learners, it could be students with disabilities, it could be minority groups. And there are goals set for each of those groups. Each subgroup is asked to meet that goal, and if that goal is not met, then we don't get as many points. So basically that is based on our subgroups of students and the progress and achievement that they have made.
And Julie, each building
Yes.
some buildings have more subgroups than others, correct?
Absolutely.
So those scores are more complicated to achieve because you have to have each subgroup compared to if I have 2 or I may have 4.
Absolutely. And we might have a higher percentage of a certain subgroup, so on and so forth. Absolutely. And then we can look at our high school ratings. Our high school ratings are very strong. When you look at Northview and Southview and you look beyond the overall star rating, you will see the scores are virtually the same. But Southview does have a higher score in gap closing, and you might question, well, if they're higher in all of the different stars, why is their overall rating a half a star lower? And when we did our deep dive and we talked about that and we looked into that, it really comes down to the performance index. So how each student scored, whether it was advanced or accomplished or proficient, we received points for each of those categories of scores. And Northview's performance index was about 4 points higher than Southview's was. And so at the end of the day, there is a quarter star difference between Northview and Southview. Virtually the same, and real strong ratings across the board. But that's kind of a little interesting fun fact. The star ratings are not just taken at value, that 4 value, 5 value, 3 value. There are rubrics that go into each of those, and it's very complex. And it's complex because the state is trying to do their best at making it as fair as possible, but in doing so, it makes it a lot more difficult to explain. But anyways, that was kind of something that bubbled up with administrators and teachers asking the question, wait a minute, it looks like Southview scores are higher, but they actually got a lower overall rating. And at the end of the day, we're a quarter star different between the two. So what are some of the highlights and the summaries from this report card? We know our achievement and our graduation rate is consistent and it's high for our district. We have exceeded growth expectations in that, I'm sorry, blanking for a second. Well, when we talk about making, in the progress component, when we're talking about making a year's worth of growth in a year's worth of time, we're actually making more than a year's worth of growth across the board with all of our students. So that's something that, we're very proud of, and that really what more can we ask for is that we take students where they come in, and then we grow them more than is expected for each student. So to me, that is a huge highlight for this report card. We're still going to talk about that K-3 literacy. It did decrease a star level. And our college, career, workforce, and military readiness is on the rise. And that is not currently a rated component, but it will be next year. And so this is an area where we are kind of diving in deeper, and we are analyzing that data very closely in preparation for what is to come next year and how we might do with that. So how does our data compare? Let's look at Sylvania to Sylvania data. This is actually 4 years worth of data. If you look at our achievement performance index, the last 3 years we've been virtually the same. Graduation rate has been very consistent. If you add the 4-year and the 5-year together, that is like a 95% for the last 4 years across the board. So very consistent in graduation rate. Here's where I wanted to break down the early literacy score. So the early literacy score is made up of 3 measures. One is 3rd grade proficiency. Last year's proficiency was 80%, which is actually higher than the year before, at 78.6. When we look at improving literacy, that is the area that dropped, and we attribute that to a change in our diagnostic assessments. So in the past, we used STAR literacy to diagnose how students were predicted to do on the test. And they take the score, the fall score from, say, kindergarten, and they compare it to the 1st grade proficiency score. Did the student move from not being on track to on track, or not, right? And so for improving literacy, we switched to iReady, so we kind of have an apples to oranges comparison. What we took in your kindergarten year would have been STAR. What we looked at in 1st grade would have been iReady, and it did, that test in and of itself, we believe, is a harder test. It's actually more comprehensive and it gives us better information, but at the same time, it did show a decrease in that improving aspect of it. So that score did drop, and that score is the reason why we, dropped a STAR score for improving literacy. The promotion to 4th grade is still high and consistent, like always. We're at 99.8%, and that's pretty consistent over 4 years. So we do believe that with comparing apples to apples for next year, we should kind of level back out again. However, they keep increasing the literacy benchmarks and goals, so, you know,
So it's
we'll see
always a
how it
moving
goes.
target?
What's that?
It's always a moving target.
It is a moving target, yes, absolutely. They wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit. At this time every year, people always want to compare us to other districts. And we often will hear people compare us to other Northwest Ohio districts. When we talk about comparable districts, the 20 districts that are the most comparable to Sylvania do not reside here in Northwest Ohio. They are in Columbus, they are in Cleveland, probably some Dayton schools as well. These are the students that have a similar number of students. They have similar demographics when we talk about race and ethnicity, economic disadvantagement, English learners, etc. So when we want to do those comparisons, this really is the list that we should look at from a district perspective. And as you can see, when you compare our scores to the other 20 schools in this grouping, we are at the top 10 of those 20, right? And depending on which component that you're looking at. In some cases, we're like top 5 or top 6. So this is kind of a great way for us to look at comparables and say, okay, how are we doing compared to other districts and other schools?
And this is determined by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. This isn't something we just went out and said, we're going to pick these. This is really developed from Columbus to say these are the districts you should compare yourself to, correct?
That is exactly correct, yes. These are Ohio Department of Ed determined schools. Now I know that even though I say that, everyone is still interested in knowing what are our neighborhood schools doing. And so we also do have some comparisons that we can look at to say, how are we doing compared to our neighbors? I just caution people when we look at these scores that we're not comparing apples to apples because of enrollment numbers. Our school is larger than every other school on there besides Washington Local. We have a higher diversity rate in every category than most of those schools on that list, for example. And yeah, we have very competitive high scores to be proud of as well. So. And then if anyone wants to dive into all the ways that they look at the data, that they come up with the report card, the technical document is linked to the presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I actually, not a question, but a comment. I actually think, slight correction, we are bigger than Washington Local. So we are next to Toledo Public Schools.
We are the second largest.
We are the second largest, and then I think Washington Local follows us, just a point of clarification.
Yes, and maybe a better way to say that is they are the most comparable in size to us
Gotcha.
compared to the rest of the list.
That's fair,
Okay?
that's fair.
Thank you so much.
Thank
If you
you.
have questions or you want to dive in deeper, let me know.
Well, Julie, thanks for taking such complicated information and making it easier to understand.
Of course.
We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Malley, we'll with you.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.1, which is that our board approve a maintenance and construction agreement. As noted, this is an agreement with the Board of Education of the City of Sylvania. I'll second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to recommend item 4.2, the approval that Mr. Darren Estelle be appointed to the Director of Technology and Innovation effective October 8th with a contract through July of 2026. It is also recommended that Darren Estelle be placed at the introductory level of the administrative salary schedule. As many of you know, Darren has been serving as interim for about the last 6 to 8 weeks, almost, somewhere in that ballpark. And it is with full confidence that I recommend him for a contract for director.
I'll move approval.
Oh, second. Comments or questions?
I have a little history up there. Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, I'm just saying
You know, I always do
congratulations.
my
I didn't
research
know
on
you
our
did
new
history.
administrators. It's always so fun. So, Darren, actually graduated, he's an IU grad. He went to Indiana University, started in 1997 and graduated in December of 2001, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Computer Information Systems. I was far beyond high school when you were just, anyway, we won't talk about that date, Darren. Anyway, I'm older than what I thought I was than you are. Also, I think he's currently working on his master's degree, is that correct? So he's also seeking additional education to broaden his scope and understanding, so for his new role. Also, Darren came to us, I believe, in 2002 in April, where he worked out at the Northwest Ohio Computer Association in Archbold as a programmer, analyst, and then we grabbed him. He became a student services supervisor, and then since 2009, he has served as the assistant director of technology, and we are happy to bring him aboard as director for many years to come.
Thank you.
Very excited for you, Darren, and for the district. I know everyone loves working with you. You are the go-to, and now that's gonna amp up. So congratulations, and thanks you. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Guess we should vote first. Adam, can you call the roll?
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Next, I have item 4.3, the appointment of Ms. Kiki France Perry as Assistant Director of Transportation.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Comments or questions?
I have comments. Do you want me to wait?
Please.
Kiki comes from us by way of New York, and it's my pleasure to bring her forward tonight and recommend her for this position. She comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience. I was at the transportation department last week where Jim was holding a meeting, and I was next to some bus drivers after I said hello to everyone, and I was sitting in the back, and I heard things like, she's so nice, and she's so professional, and she's so great to work with. And they celebrated Kiki having the opportunity to have this position because she's one of their own. She's worked in our department as a bus driver for a little over a year. But while in New York, she was an interim safety coordinator. She's been a head bus driver, an expediter, a dispatcher, and at one point in her career, she also worked at the Xerox Corporation as a global e-business manager. She's a well-rounded individual. She comes with 6 years of nonprofit work with the National Kidney Foundation of upstate New York. She also has participated in some community service-oriented activities such as First Robotics Mentor and a youth soccer coach, look at that.
Yeah.
And also worked as a Flower City Work Camp volunteer. So she's enjoyed working with children. And finally, she does definitely have her CDL B class, so if we need an extra driver, she's ready. She's been driving for us already. But she has an MBA from BGSU in Management Information Systems and a BA in Psychology, Business Administration from Wittenberg. So she is well prepared, well trained to be an addition to our transportation department.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Congratulations. Adam, please call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. I would also like to recommend item 4.4. This provides 3 transition days for Kiki to transition from her role as a bus driver to the Assistant Director of Transportation.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Julie.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.5, an overnight field trip for the 140 Southview high school band members to perform at Disney in Florida. And yes, this does say March of 2026, believe it or not. They are organized and ready to go.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.6, which is a policy for first read for an attendance amendment of religious expression. We've outlined new language to reflect the law.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
No, it's pretty standard. Wasn't a big change.
I think it's, yeah, we don't have any discretion on this either, it's mandatory.
It just looks like it's doing the same thing we were already doing, kind of, just using different words.
It's very simple. Yep. A tweak. So thank you. We will bring that to our next board meeting for a adoption of the board policy. I would like to recommend item 4.7. This is a sidecar health insurance agreement, EA. We are recommending the board approve an agreement with Sidecar Health per the exhibit.
I'll move approval.
I will second.
Any comments or questions?
And we call this the Adam Code.
Yes, thank you, Adam.
Oh, boy, I don't think Adam would like us to do that.
No.
But I would like to say
There it
thank
goes.
you.
There it goes.
Thank you to Adam, but also thank you to both our unions
Yes.
and the insurance.
The insurance committee.
Was fantastic. It was really, I mean, a really collaborative process.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I know Adam was flooded with questions, and I hear that you handled them all with a lot of patience and understanding, because this is a big change for
Yeah.
everybody. It's a huge change, and there's gonna be some growing pains maybe, but I think this is, you know, proved to be really fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
from the start, it was just an extreme collaborative effort back in February when we, organized the health insurance committee, and we've been, together ever since and made the tough decision, but it's a really good plan that has an increase in our benefits if used correctly, and will save us 10% on our annual premiums, so.
I don't know, you said a really tough decision. I would say a really informed
Informed.
decision. I think it was really studied and really informed.
It was.
Because everybody really, I mean, the presentations were great and the questions were great and everybody was really engaged. So it was a great thing. It was awesome.
I agree. And we have one health insurance committee member in attendance, Holly, who was, she represented the, one of the 5 on the OPSI committee, so.
Well, I'm here too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Was it super important?
Adam, call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
thank you guys.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.8, which is an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with SEA in regards to our health insurance with Sidecar and the insurance agreement.
I'll move approval.
Second.
I'd like to thank the SCA membership and especially Dan Greenberg and Anna Drake for all their work on this. Any other comments or questions?
Second that, thank you very much. Thank you to all of SCA, but, especially their leaders and their members of the insurance committee.
Absolutely, yes.
Did a fantastic job.
Julie,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.9, which is a memorandum of understanding with OC Local 227 per the exhibit. Very similar to what SEA has done, but this just mirrors the same agreement.
I'll move approval.
Second.
And on this, I'd like to thank the OPSI membership and, of course, Justin, Hitler, Holly, and the insurance committee members. Thank you all. Any other comments or questions?
Just echo what you said. Appreciate what they did.
Julie,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to recommend item 4.10, which is a revision to our Sylvania Administrator Handbook per the exhibit. This is a 2-year agreement for 24 through 26.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taberski?
Thank you. I will recommend items 5.1 through 5.3 on a consent agenda basis. 5.1 are licensed substitutes. 5.2 are lifeguards for the Northview Natatorium. And 5.3 is licensed extra duty.
I move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 through 5.3.
Second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Thank you. I will recommend items 6.1 through 6.4 on a consent agenda basis. 6.1 are classified new hires. 6.2 are classified personnel changes. 6.3 is a classified resignation, and 6.4 is a classified termination.
I'll move for approval items 6.1 through 6.4 on a consent agenda basis.
Second.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Thank you. I will recommend items 7.1 through 7.3 on a consent agenda basis. 7.1 are licensed supplemental positions for the 24-25 school year. 7.2 for non-teaching pupil activity contracts for 24-25 school year. And 7.3 are volunteers for the 24-25 school year.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 7.1 through 7.3.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8.1 is a contract extension for Dr. Motley's contract through the 25 through 26 school year.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Thank you.
Yes.
Continuing to lead us.
It's a privilege to serve the families and students of Sylvania Schools. It truly is a privilege. Thank you.
Call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
And item 8.2 is a contract for Mr. Adam Koch, beginning the 25-26 school year.
I will move for approval.
A second.
Any comments or questions?
Welcome back.
thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us.
You get sidecar lead.
No.
For a while.
I would echo what Dr. Motley said. It's an honor to serve alongside of everyone here at Sylvania and the community.
Call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Thank you.
thanks guys.
And we are now on public participation for items that are not on the agenda, and we don't have anyone signed up for that. I will move we adjourn.
I was second.
Can you call the roll?
Tammy,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
6:40.